Despite a previous global dominance in more ways than one, the UK now makes up just 3% of the global stock market. And that might leave the patriot in you wondering, should I be putting money into UK stocks? This video will walk you through everything you need to know, including whether the UK market is a good investment in theory, and how much, if any, of your portfolio should be backing Britain. Just remember that nothing I say is financial advice, just general guidance for educational purposes, and your capital is always at risk when investing. If you're unsure about anything, please speak with a qualified advisor. So let's start with a very important question. What do we even mean by the UK stock market? Because you're probably thinking we just mean companies listed on the London Stock Exchange, but there's actually a lot more to it than that. For a start, the London Stock Exchange actually operates two separate markets. There's the main market, which is home to the big names that most of us are familiar with, like BP, Barclays, and Greggs. Had to give a shout out to my boy. Then there's the alternative investment market, which lists smaller, fast-growing businesses. I would give you a few names here too, but there's a very high chance that you won't have heard of any of them. Within the main market, there's also a lot of different indexes, and they all do slightly different things. You've got the FTSE 100, which tracks the 100 largest companies on the London Stock Exchange, then the FTSE 250, which tracks the next 250 largest companies, and the FTSE 350, which tracks the 350 biggest companies all in one go. There's also the FTSE Small Cap, which tracks the performance of the smallest 10% of companies, and finally the FTSE All Share, which tracks roughly 600 of the biggest companies, equating to around 98% of the value of the main market as a whole. But when most people think about the UK stock market, they think of the FTSE 100. That's normally the one they're talking about on the news when they say that the UK stock market is either up or down. However, one thing that often surprises investors is that much of this index isn't even made up of British companies. At least not in the way that you thought. Because while they all might be listed in London, the majority are multinational companies that generate 80% of their revenue overseas. This means their performance often isn't affected too much by how the UK economy is doing. Instead, it can be more influenced by international trends like commodity prices, currency swings, things like that. Think of it a bit like Premier League clubs since they started signing more European players back in the 90s. It's better for results, it's better for the overall quality of the league, but it's not exactly a perfect reflection of the talent that's actually coming through the local academies. The FTSE 250, on the other hand, is often considered a better barometer of the UK's economic health, as its overseas sales ratio is a lot lower. So that's really the first question that you need to ask yourself if you're considering investing in the UK stock market. Do you want an index that actually reflects UK economic performance, or just the performance of the companies that happen to be listed in London? And you can get exposure to these companies in a few different ways. If you just wanted a UK-focused fund, you'd look for one containing the name of the index that you wanted to track, or one that uses a size description instead. Terms like large cap, mid cap, or smaller companies will correspond to the size of companies an index is tracking. And a similar principle applies to global index funds with a UK allocation too. A typical all-world fund will give you exposure to large and medium companies, whereas a global all-cap fund would also track the performance of smaller companies. If you're interested in learning more about investing in general, we have a completely free Investing for Beginners course hosted by Damien from Damien Talks Money, which will walk you through literally everything you need to know. So if you want to check that out, I'll link it down below. One reason you might be watching this video is because you've heard that the UK stock market has been doing pretty well lately, at least at the time of recording. And for the indexes containing the biggest companies, that's certainly true. The FTSE 100 posted annual returns of 21% in 2025, which is its best year since 2009, beating the S&P 500's 17%, while even the FTSE 350 rose a respectable 16%. That's historically unusual though. The FTSE 100 has beaten its US counterpart in only 1 in every 4 calendar years since 1984. And since 2016, it's had an absolute thrashing by both the US and global markets. But why is that? Well, it's mainly to do with what the FTSE 100 index itself contains, or more accurately, what it doesn't contain. As we all know, tech has been the major success story of the decade, driving the majority of gains in both the S&P 500 and in global index trackers which tend to have a very heavy concentration on the US. But while roughly a third of the S&P 500 is allocated to tech, only around 1% of the FTSE 100 is. Instead, it's heavily concentrated in traditional sectors like insurance, banking, and energy. This means that UK stocks have largely missed out on some huge growth that we've seen across the tech sector in the last few years. In fact, the FTSE 100 has risen just 113% in price terms since 2005, compared to 541% for the S&P 500. However, the FTSE's more stable reputation is exactly why some people do like it. When things get a bit dicey and people start to worry about the stock market, they tend to flock back to the safety of the UK market, which is filled with companies whose goods and services remain in demand no matter what. And this is exactly what we saw in 2025. And because the FTSE 100 has much more direct exposure to commodities, it also tends to benefit whenever oil, gold, or metal prices rise. But there is another benefit that's worth mentioning too. The kind of sectors that make up UK stock market indexes often don't need to pump as much money back into their businesses for growth, resulting in them being able to pay you much higher dividends. In fact, the UK has one of the highest dividend yields of any market in the world. Those years of underperformance have had some very big consequences that could be significant to you as an investor though. People have been abandoning the UK stock market for years now. UK equity funds have seen 10 years of consecutive outflows, equating to a loss of £71 billion, while fund managers and investors have flocked to better performing markets. This has pushed the valuations of companies down, meaning that right now, UK shares are some of the cheapest of any major economy. These poundland prices are both a blessing and a curse, depending on which side of the market that you're on. Low domestic valuations means companies can choose to list elsewhere, like New York, and immediately be worth more, and UK companies trading at a discount have also become increasingly attractive to private equity buyers looking to acquire British companies before relisting them in the US at a profit or removing them from the stock market entirely. Taken together, this means around a third of companies listed in the UK a decade ago have since vanished, with more than half swallowed by overseas buyers. It's a stock market equivalent of a party that everyone's quietly sneaking out of so they can go to a better, cooler party down the road, and the fewer people that are left, the less anyone wants to hang around. And although this doesn't exactly paint the most promising picture for the future, there is one positive, at least for you. Low valuations mean that if UK companies start doing well, share prices have a lot more room to rise, and alternatively, less room to fall as well. US companies, on the other hand, are already priced as if they're going to keep doing brilliantly, so even if they do, you might not gain as much from your investment. With all of that said, there's still one very important question that we need to answer. How much of your portfolio should you allocate to UK stocks? Seeing as the UK accounts for just 3% of the global stock market, technically if you held any more than this within your portfolio, you'd have what's known as a home bias, assuming you're from the UK. In the UK, 25% of the typical investment portfolio is made up of UK stocks, which is actually lower than the typical home bias of some other countries, but still far more than a global portfolio would suggest is sensible. So, is everyone just getting investing wrong in the UK? Maybe, maybe not, it depends. At the extremes, a large amount of home bias can definitely be a bad thing. Just imagine if you'd been 100% in the FTSE 100 since 2015. You'd be pretty mad right now. But there are still a few reasons why giving a little extra weighting to UK stocks might not be the worst idea. For one, you might simply feel more comfortable and familiar with UK companies, and there's nothing wrong with that. Besides, if the UK really starts to pop off, you can both be an investing genius and a patriot at the same time. We've already seen how hyper-concentrated US and global markets have become in just one sector, which can effectively leave the success of your portfolio riding on the performance of a handful of huge companies. Being a little overweight in UK stocks could theoretically be a useful antidote to that. In addition, you also avoid currency conversion fees when both buying and rebalancing. There are also more extreme risks that a home bias can help guard against. In very rare cases, wars or political crises can leave foreign investors unable to sell their shares or access their money, and while that may sound far-fetched, it literally happened in 2022. Lots of overseas investors in Russian companies found themselves locked out of their investments following sanctions. But how does a home bias actually impact long-term investment performance? This paper right here details the results of a simulation run by a team of US finance professors. The aim was to simulate different domestic stock allocations from 5% all the way up to 100% across a variety of developed markets, which of course included the UK. The simulation went from 1890 to 2023 and found that having a 33% home bias would have given you a small performance improvement. But bear in mind that that's working across a time period where the UK had one of the largest stock markets on the planet, and when companies were a lot less global in nature. So we ran some figures ourselves that instead focused on only the past 15 years, looking at how a £10,000 portfolio would have performed at differing UK and global stock allocations. Any guesses as to what the optimal UK allocation for returns would have been over that time period? I'll give you a few seconds to have a think. Shockingly, we found that the optimal UK allocation would have been exactly 0%. Because global stocks have largely outperformed UK stocks since 2010, the more of this exposure you sacrificed in favour of the domestic market, the lower your gains would have been. But we found something else interesting too. Even though 100% global stocks gave you the best returns, this was also the portfolio that was the most volatile, swinging by an average of 13.81% a year. The calmest portfolio, on the other hand, was a mix of around 80% UK stocks, which swung by a smaller, but still fairly sizable 11.48% a year. Research from Vanguard found something similar, but with modelled, forward-looking data. Their analysis concluded that the smoothest ride came from holding somewhere between 45 to 65% of a portfolio in UK stocks. Add more international exposure than that, and the swings actually started getting bigger again, not smaller. So there's the trade-off. Your portfolio might not perform as well as it could, but you're also likely to have less panic attacks along the way. It really does all depend on how much you value those potential extra returns. So that probably leaves us with a slightly less satisfying answer than you were hoping for. If your goal is to simply own the world in proportion to its size, then the UK only deserves a tiny slice of your portfolio. But on the flip side, the UK can also offer an alternative investment to the hugely inflated tech bubble that we're currently experiencing, allowing you to put your money into more traditional and long-standing companies. And, for now at least, it's fairly cheap to do so. In terms of how much home bias you should have, well, again, that's on you to decide, but general investing theory would suggest that a home bias of anywhere between 25 to 35% is pretty reasonable. As always in investing, there are trade-offs, but understanding what the trade-offs are and how to align with your goals and beliefs is more than half the battle.